All right, Berurah Tamar Dasra. We're continuing our share in Dishu Bahalacha. We're holding in Siman Shin Mem, and we're going to be doing tonight. We're picking up from Seif Yud. I think we had. Did we have a little bit left? Yeah, we have a few lines left in the Mishnah Berurah left over from Seif Tes, but we're going to be picking up in Halacha Kuf Tzadik Aleph Amud Beis Siman Shin Mem and Seif Yud. But first, since it's Tuesday night, we're going to say something about tefillah. So we covered, last time we spoke about tefillah, we spoke about Maidani. So we know that just about the first thing we do when we get up in the morning, we say Maidani, and then we wash Netilas Yadayim. Now, the truth is that the reason for our washing Netilas Yadayim is one of those things, we all take for granted. We wash Netilas Yadayim with a kais 3 times each hand. Some people do 4 times. Negelvasser, Netilas Yadayim. But why exactly do we do it? So it's one of those things that are a little bit tied up in halacha. It's a lot of different opinions. We have a Gemara in Shabbos that says that the reason we wash Netilas Yadayim in the morning is because when we sleep, we're daimel ames. When we sleep, we're somewhat akin to a corpse. We're not conscious. We don't know. We're not aware. And because of that, we have a ruach ra. When we wake up, the neshama comes back. We, so to speak, somehow become alive again. And there's a ruach ra that leaves our body when we wake up, but it remains on our fingertips. And in order to remove that ruach ra, we have to wash our hands specifically. We have to wash 3 times on each hand, alternating hands, and we have to do it with a keli. That's the Gemara in Shabbos. The Gemara in Shabbos doesn't spell out the method of washing, but it does say that the reason is ruach ra. Then we have a Gemara in Brachas. The Gemara in Brachas gives a different reason why we wash. The Gemara in Brachas says that we have to wash our hands because since we're going to go be mispal, we're going to say Kriya Shema and we're going to be Mekabel Ol Malchus Shamayim, and then we're going to be mispal to the Rebbeinu Shalom and Shemona Esrei. So before Kriya Shema and Shemona Esrei, the Gemara says we have to wash. Now the Gemara doesn't say why we have to wash. The Gemara says it's because of Kriya Shema and Shemona Esrei. But why do you have to wash before Kriya Shema and Shemona Esrei? So over there we wind up in a Machlokes Rishonim. We have the Rosh. The Rosh says that at night you're not in control of your body and you don't know what your hands are doing. Yadayim askani yisheim. Your hands are busy during the night and you don't know where you touched on your body. So you might have touched a place that's unclean, and you can't come to daven to the Rebbeinu Shalom with unclean hands. So you have to wash your hands. So according to the Rosh, the Gemara in Brachas is telling you have to wash the Netilas Yadayim. Why? Because of Nikius. It's a cleanliness thing. You can't come be Mekabel Ol Malchus Shamayim. You can't come speak to the Rebbeinu Shalom with dirty hands. The Rashba says something a little bit different. The Rashba says Chadoshim Labakarim, that we're renewed every morning. And the Rashba says specifically, he says every morning we're like a new Bria, and we are once again entering into the service of the Rebbeinu Shalom. It's not that it's one long continuous Avodas Hashem. It's yesterday we were Ovdei Hashem, then we went to sleep. Now we're a new creation, we're a new Bria Chadasha, and as a Bria Chadasha we're once again coming into the service of the Rebbeinu Shalom. So he says it's like a kohen. The kohen, when he goes to the Beis HaMikdash to do the avodah, he has to wash from the kiyar. So the same way he has to wash from the kiyar, we have to wash our hands when we re-enter the avodah of the Rebbeinu Shalom. Now the Mishnah Berurah in Hilchos Yadayim brings down the famous Shla and the Zayar that we try to be chayshish for all of these various reasons when we wash Netilas Yadayim, right? That's traditionally what we do. We try to cover our bases as much as we can. Now the Shla and the Zayar say that since you're removing ruach ra from your hands, right? That was the Gemara in Shabbos. You got to take away the ruach ra. The Shla and the Zayar say that you have to remove that ruach ra as soon as possible. You're not allowed to leave that ruach ra on your hands. That's where it comes from. Where it's brought down not to walk Daled Amos without taking the ruach ra off your hands, and that's why a lot of people are noyig to have a negelvasser shissel by the bed because they don't want to walk the Daled Amos without taking the ruach ra off. There are heterim. There are those that bring down that if you're in the house, if you're under one roof, kalabayis kedalanamas tummy, so you don't have to worry about the dalanamas. But they bring down that it's very important, get that ruach ra off your hand as soon as possible, because it's dangerous. It's dangerous in a gashmiistic sense. Wherever you touch, like the Gemara says, somebody touches his nose before he washes his tilas yadayim, kaitzis yada, you should cut off his hand, because the ruach ra could enter into the body. Also, it's brought down that in a ruchniistic sense, it's dangerous. It impedes you in a ruchniistic way, this ruach ra that's on you. So you got to get rid of it. So, interesting. I don't know how many people are aware of this, but we see that a lot of people are makel in this aspect of ruach ra. Like I said, some people have the negavash shissel by their bed. Not everybody has it. It's not necessarily so completely widespread. In other ways also, whether you touch something, how machmar do you have to be if you touched food or this or that, depending on the ruach ra. There's a story that's brought down. Everybody's aware of the famous, Avram ben Avram, the Ger Tzedek, in the time of the Gra. So he was killed al Kiddushem Shamayim. And it's brought down that when he was killed al Kiddushem Shamayim, the ruach ra either was taken away from the world or it was mitigated. And for that reason, after the death of the Ger Tzedek, you could be more makel on the ruach ra. Somehow an aspect of kapara that the ruach ra was mitigated after his death. So I think knowing the background of netilas yadayim, when we wash our hands in the morning, it's one of those things that we do when we're 3/4 asleep. But if you know the background of why you're doing it, if you realize that when you're going to wash netilas yadayim in the morning, you're like a kohen. The Rashba says you're a kohen that's going into the Beis Hamikdash to do the avodah, and you're washing your hands in preparation of the avodah. So suddenly the netilas yadayim is a different netilas yadayim. So the same thing I would tell bachrim sometimes. You put on tzitzits. If you realize that the tzitzis, imagine if you are a servant of the king, and the king gave you a special beged, a royal beged, to wear, how chashuv you would feel when you put on that beged. So the same thing, we have a beged al kanfus, we have tzitzis that we wear. It's something that marks us as a mamlechas kaihanim v'kadosh. So the same thing, when we go to wash the netilas yadayim, if we do it with a gefiel, we understand why we're doing it, that we're being machnis into avodas Hashem, it changes our whole netilas yadayim. Okay, now, what? Yeah. And their feet. Why don't we wash our feet?
No.
Oh.
But what are they doing it for? They're going to do the korbanos. They're going to handle meat, and they're going to slaughter, and they're going to do everything else.
Right.
Okay. Do they have to do it before they bench the oil?
They have to do it before they go in to do the avodah of any sort. They have to wash from the kier.
So benching is considered an avodah.
It's an avodah. It's done with the big day kahuna. Yeah. So.
But they didn't go wash special for that. They already did that between akavas and
right. They have to wash at the beginning of the avodah, but they have to wash even if they're not going to bring any karbanos.
Right.
But they have to wash even if they're not going to bring any karbanos. It doesn't have to be a carbon. If let's say that akavas haneris.
Okay, so they're still touching. They don't want it to get dirty or whatever.
Hey, but it doesn't seem it's an Ikkias thing. It's between other things. But there's a pious, right? You don't know who's going to get what.
I want to know the reason why I'm asking is I can understand washing hands if you're going to do the virus and all of this, but who says where does this come from? I mean, it's beautiful, the Zohar and everything, 100% no question. I'm just asking, where does this whole Indian of Ruchnius, coming in by washing their hands? We always do that, when we go to daven, we're always busy with the hands and everything else. Where does this come in that this water, has something to do with this Ruach HaTumah?
Well, we have it by mikvah also, right? Over there it's tum and tara. But we definitely have the concept by mikvah also, right? Somehow going into the mikvah takes off tumah.
What?
I mean, going into the mikvah takes off tumah, right? So washing,
Yeah, but
whether it's because
but there's no tumor without, let's say, first of all, either having a physical thing, some kind of a physical, occurrence or whatever. There's no.
well, not necessarily, not necessarily.
Tumor without something like that. I mean, that's written in the Torah. So it's either a zav.
You mean contracting tumor.
Whatever he had is
Right.
there's a physical.
Right, a mace. You touched a mace.
There's a physical thing.
Right.
By Mesa doesn't say you have to wash anywhere, does it?
Well, sure, you have to go to the mikveh. Of course, he has to go to the mikveh. He has to bring his
It's
korban.
not
No,
necessary.
tumas mace. Tumas mace, sure. Sure, you can't take away tumas mace without mikveh. Can't take away tumas mace without tefillah. Right? But not only mechatos, he also has to be toivel.
The mechatos is.
No, the mechatos is the paraduma.
I understand it, but it has to do with water.
With water. Yeah. Interesting. You know what, where else you have it? And just an interesting thing. I don't know if everybody has this minhag or not. That you have to. We wash out a kais before kiddush, right? So before, yeah, I know. Before benching, before benching, it's brought down in halacha. You need hadacha, the kais of birkas hamazon, right? It has to be washed inside and out. But before kiddush, also Friday night before kiddush, we rinse the kais out, right? One of the things that's brought down is that you have to be, what's the word that I'm looking for? Mechaber. You have to connect the yayin to mayim. Why? Because yayin causes kalas roish. Kalas roish brings to averis. Mayim is keneged Torah. So before you can make kiddush on yayin, you have to be mechaber the yayin with mayim. That's one of the reasons brought down why you have to wash out the kais. That's why some people also have the minhag that they rinse out the kais, then they take from the water of the kais, they pour it into the wine, and then they pour from the wine into the kais, because you have to be mechaber it. But mayim there's all sorts of things with mayim. We got to stop. Okay. All right. So we have a few lines left on Kuf Tzadik Aleph Amid Beis in the Mishnah Berurah Ois Cotton Lamed Zayin, which was going on the Mechaber. The Mechaber had said we were talking about the malacha of Ma'amer, and the Chavetz Chaim said was Lamed Ches. No, Lamed Zayin. In the Mechaber in Sif Tes, he said you're not allowed to gather any kind of produce that grows from the ground. Gathering it together from the Mokum Gidulai, from the place where it grows, would be the Malacha of Ma'amer. So we're in Ois Cotton Lamed Zayin, and we are about halfway through that piece of Mishnah Berurah. We're 5 lines down from where the Lamed Zayin is, in middle of the line. Chavetz Chaim says, "V'shaimrei ginois upardesim," those that guard gardens where produce grows, or orchards where fruit grows, tzrichin lizar ma'id bazeh, they have to be very careful not to accidentally, inadvertently transgress the malacha of ma'amer. Afilu b'peroi shenashru miba'id yom, even from fruit that fell off a tree before Shabbos. We know that fruits that fell off the tree on Shabbos are muktzah, a gzeira, that if you collect them, you might come to pick them. But even fruits that fell off the tree before Shabbos, so they're not really muktzah, still you have a problem gathering them. You have to be very careful, shaloi la'asvan b'Shabbos, that you should not gather them up on Shabbos, afilu ma'at, even just a little bit, ki yesh bazeh chiyuv chatos, because you could come to be over in Issa Daraisa, where you would be chayv chatos if you did it accidentally. The shear imur hu shear cotton ma'oid, because the shear, the minimum measurement to transgress the Yisr of Ma'amer, is a very small shear. Like the Rambam writes, Ha-Ma'amer achlin, somebody who gathers together edible produce, Imla achila, if he's gathering it for eating purposes, Shiurai kigregeres, the shear is just like a dried fig, with a very small shear. Vim lebehema, if you're gathering it to feed it to an animal, Shiurai kamaloi pi hagdi, is the mouthful of a young kid, a young goat, which is also small. Vim lahasaka, if it's for burning purposes, Shiurai kidei lavashel beitza, the shear would be to gather enough fuel to light up a fire that would be able to cook an egg. Ayin sham. So he's just showing you that the minimum shear to be over ma'amer is a very small shear. So if you're somebody who works in a pardes or in a gina and you're hanging around over there, you got to be very careful, because if you're going to start picking stuff up, very easy to be over ma'amer. He can be doing it after Shabbos, but it doesn't matter. He's gathering it for the purposes. Yeah, so you're going to run into Hachana problems also. It could be. No, or maybe Yom Tov. Okay, now we go on to Sif Yud. Says the Mechaber, HaMekabetz Devela, somebody who presses dried figs, V'asa mimena igol, and he makes a round cake of pressed figs, which was the way that dried figs were sold, and so too now. So he takes these dried figs and he presses them together to make an eagle, to make this round cake of figs. Ay shenokav te'enim, or he makes a hole through the figs. V'hichnis hachevel bahem, and he inserts a rope, a string, through the holes in the figs. Ad sheniskaptzu guf echad, and by doing this, he's pulling all of the figs onto one rope. And again, he's pressing them together so that they form one mass. Harezet toledes ma'amer. This would be a tolda of the malacha of ma'amer, the chayev, and it would be an iser daraisa. You'd be chayev achatos for this. V'chein kol kiyotza bazeh. So too, any other fruits where the derech is that you take these fruits and you press them into one mass, if that's the derech of how they're stored, so then that is a tolda of ma'amer. Because again, what's the malacha of ma'amer? The malacha of ma'amer is gathering the produce together in the derech that produce is made to be gathered. If it's produce that's made into a pile, so then gathering it together in a pile is ma'amer. If you're going to going to somehow form it into bundles, then that's ma'amer. If you're pressing it into cakes, then that's a tolda of ma'amer. What do you mean in a spit?
In other words, it's not something that just fell off a tree and left it there to dry. They would like put it maybe on the roof.
Oh, so that's going to come into play now. Let's see what the Mishnah Berurah says. Ayis katan lamed ches areza toledes ma'amer shedarkan shalois an aperos lechabron ba'ofen zeh, because it's the derech. This is the way. This is what you do with these kind of fruits. Now, here's an interesting chayadam. V'ayin b'nishmas adam. Shemitzaded, the Nishmas Adam writes that he is of the opinion if you're sitting in your house and you're pressing these figs into cakes in your house, you would also be chayiv from ma'amer. The boyfriend kazeh also is gam babayis kibasodeh, because by figs it's the way to do this even in the house. The chein kosav b'sefer ma'aser rekeach ayin sham. Now this is very interesting, because until now we said that ma'amer, you can only be over on ma'amer b'mokim giduloi, right? So we said that if you're going to be over on ma'amer with apples, if you're under the tree, if you're where the trees are, and that's where the apples fall, so if you gather it up over there, you're being ma'amer b'mokim giduloi, that's the daraisa. But if you took apples and now you went out into the yard, into your backyard, and you spilled out a dozen apples, and now you gathered them up in your backyard, that might be a Shabbos problem because of the koil, depending on how you do it, but it's not going to be ma'amer because it's not mokum giduloi. Now suddenly over here by the dried figs, we're saying you can have ma'amer even shaloi b'mokum giduloi. Now this is not clear. This is definitely a matter of dispute. For instance, if you take a look in the Be'er Heitev, in my druk over here, it's in the second column of the Be'er Heitev, on the top line, it's Ois Tes Zayin in the Be'er Heitev. He says, V'dafka shekiptza mimokam shenaflu mina ilon. This is only true that you're going to be over on Ma'amer if you collected these figs in the place where they fell off the tree. Avalim kiptzam babayis loy. But if you squeeze them together in the house, you wouldn't be over on ma'amer. Ken muva b'shem aramach. This is what the Kesef Mishnah brings down, that it's only b'makom giduloi. However, over here we're bringing down the Nishmas Adam. Says the Mishnah Berurah says not that way, and he brings this down from the Ma'aser Rekeach also. Now the Chayodam and the Nishmas Adam is very complex. He goes through the Rambam and he makes a whole diyun in the Rambam. He comes out that the Rambam holds that there's different types of ma'amer. depending on the different types of produce that you're dealing with. And every type of produce that you're dealing with, it depends what the derech is. And some things are over in the field, some things are over in the house. The Ma'aser Keach is a little bit more straightforward. The Ma'aser Keach just says that gathering, forming them into cakes is definitely a form of ma'amer, right? Definitely that's the ma'amer of figs, and it's not done in the field. Like you said, it's not done in the field because that's not where they're dried. You don't dry them in the field where they grow. You dry them somewhere else, either on the roof or somewhere else. So once they're dried, now you're going to take them and now you're going to press them, and you press them wherever you want. And wherever you do it, it's going to be an issur.
I don't understand why the Rav said they have to press it. Okay, there's a different verb for pressing. We'll see it the next sentence.
Yeah.
But over here, what he did,
Well, mekabetz means to collect. It doesn't mean press. Yeah.
But what he did is he
Yeah.
made an eagle.
Right.
Or else he made a hole and he put it together with honey. That he can do in the house too. That he would be chayiv no matter what he does. As long as
Well, no, I don't understand the
he
distinction you're
makes the
making.
hole and he does it at home, so that would be also
Yeah, but what distinction are you making? What does that have to do with pressing or not pressing?
because
Or you're saying the same thing I did. What you're saying, what you're saying is it's ma'amer. The question is, ma'amer is usually, the gather of ma'amer, we usually say you're only over on ma'amer b'makom giduloi. So why over here are you over on ma'amer in the house?
because what you're doing is you're doing the same thing that you would do outside, because you're taking it and you're stringing them together.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. If I have wheat, if I bought kernels of wheat, and now I brought them into the house, and they're on the floor, and I make them into a pile, I'm not over on Mamer. That's not an issur of Mamer. It's not Makom Geduloi. It's not Mamer. Even though I'm doing the same thing I could do in the field, it's still not Mamer. Mamer is b'Makom Geduloi.
Maybe they're picking something
but
that's
this
not
is-
mukta though. In other words, Igulei Devela
Right.
would be something that you're it's sort of business-like. In other words, when you take these dried figs
Yeah.
and make them into a cake,
Right.
so therefore you're preparing them for travel, you're preparing them
You-
for something.
There's no question that you're doing an act of ma'amer. That's not in dispute. You're definitely doing an act of ma'amer. The problem is that ma'amer is b'makom giduloi. It's not b'makom giduloi. That's one of the gedarim of ma'amer.
Doing the house.
So I think all you're doing is you're saying what the Ma'aser Kech says. The Ma'aser Kech says that figs, dried figs, are different because you do not. The derech is not to make the cakes in the field because they have to be processed after they're in the field. You have to take them and you have to dry them. So normally there is no processing step before ma'amer. I mean, yeah, you thresh it, you this, you that, but once you have the finished produce, there's ma'amer that's done in the field. That's what's done. You make a big pile of grain in the field. So that's ma'amer, right? But by figs, since you're going to collect them and you're going to dry them, right? You're not going to dry them necessarily in the field. You might dry them up on the roof. And then is when you do the imur. Then you do the ma'amer of making it into cakes. So you might as well do it in the house. Or in the warehouse. Or in anywhere. You're not going to do it you don't have to take it back into the field to do it in the field.
There's a difference between taking in stalks of wheat or whatever, because over there, it doesn't get dirty. You take this whole thing, whatever it is, it's not finished product anyways. You have to take the kernels, you have to do this. So
You cut it and you bundle it in the
you
field.
do it on the field.
Right.
But this,
You don't do in the field.
you have to take it in a keli when to begin with. You don't just take it around and you gather it and leave it in one spot with all the dirt and everything. You want to minimize the dirt.
Right.
So you take it right away, you put it into a keli.
Exactly.
That's
So the imur is done later.
what?
So the imur is done later in the house or in the warehouse.
But it's only done-
That's the Ma'aser
I don't
Kech.
think you have to make
Press it.
into a keli. I don't think you have to.
Well, what else does it mean? Valsa mimenu eagle.
Ego means that, you put them next to each other or whatever it is. You did it.
But that's what it is. Go to the store and look. That's what it is. It's a round cake of pressed figs. That's what they are. That's just what they do. That is what they do. I mean,
So what's
that's what they do. That's what they do. That's the fact. Matter of fact, they ask over here, I don't want to go into it, but the Noisei Kalim over here ask, how come you're not over on Boina? They ask over here because by cheese, when you make cheese, one of the Yisurim is Boina, because you make that wheel. You make the wheel of cheese. So one of the Yisurim is Boina. So they want to know over here by the Igulei Dvela why you're not over on Boina, because you're building a cake, you're building a mass. How come it's not Boina? So what they want to say is that the difference between this and the cheese is you go to the supermarket and you see those wheels of cheese. They're beautifully shaped. They're perfect shapes. They're, you know what I mean? They're smooth. They're rounded. So they say that boina is only when you have kavana liapaisai, when you want to make it nice and clean and straight and pretty. That's boina. But over here, it's not boina because over here it's just a lump. It might be round, it's generally round, but it's lumpy, it's bumpy, there's no kavana to make it pretty. The only kavana is to make it into one mass, but not to make it necessarily pretty. All right. So we did Lamed Ches. Now we go on to Sif Yud Aleph. Afal pi shenoistim shumshimin ve'egoizim l'dvash. Even though you are allowed al pidin to put sesame seeds and nuts into honey on Shabbos, lo yechabtzeim biyadai. After you have the sesame or the nuts sitting in honey, you're not allowed to take your hands, go into the mixture, and now squeeze a bunch of nuts and sesame together and take it out of the honey. Why can't you do this? Says the Mishnah Berurah in Eis Katan Lamed Tes, Lo yechabtzeim biyadai, Ritzayna loymar. What the Mechaber means to say over here is, Shemahadek biyadai ha'egoizim, that you squeeze together with your hands the nuts. Val yedei zeh, and by doing this, mafrid hadvash mibachutz, the honey is going to get squeezed out from the nuts and from the sesame. The heavy Berurah. So now what you're doing is you're doing a form of Berurah. You had a taruvis, you had a mixture of sesame and nuts and honey, and now you're separating the nuts and the sesame from the honey because you're squeezing out, you're taking out the nuts and the sesame and you're squeezing out the honey. So that's a form of Berurah. This halacha is repeated. We find this halacha in Shin Yotes. Now you're asking,
why is that not good from good? In other words,
l'chara, it's eichel mitoich pseilus, and you're doing it biyad, right? You're not using a keli. And if you want to do it miyad, right? If you want to just take it out and eat it, l'chara, you would think it's mutter, right? Because again, it's you have the three tanoim. It's eichel mitoich pseilus, it's biyad, and it's miyad. So this also is a subject, it seems, of a dispute amongst the Paiskim, because they ask that besides the problem of Berurah, there should also be a problem here. Lush, thank you. There should also be a problem here of lush, because what's lush? Lush is whenever you take dry, separate kernels or separate pieces, and you combine them into a combined mass using a liquid, that's lush. Now over here, you're taking loose sesame seeds, dry small nuts, you're mixing it with honey, and you're creating a mass. So there are those that say there should also be a problem of lush. So they debate lush, bur, and the Chavetz Chaim in the Bir Halacha in Shin Yud Tes says that one of the big nafkaminas, whether it's lush or Berurah, is going to be if you want to use it miyad. If it's only Berurah, so l'chayr it should be mutter miyad. If it's lush, it's not. There's another shita that says that this wouldn't even if it's only Berurah, it still wouldn't be mutter even if you want it miyad. I don't remember the reason for it. That's back in Shin Yud Tes. But there is a shita that holds that for some reason it would be also al Berurah even if you wanted to do it miyad. But I think that was only a dasi chida. I think it was only one opinion. For lush, you need liquid. Yes. You have to have something. You have to have a combining element. Yeah.
The previous soup, when you take the flavors, put them together, stick them together, make a cake.
Yeah, also theoretically, it could be lush. Yeah. Okay. Zogt the Mechaber weiter. Sif Yud Beis, where there's no Mishnah Berurah. Hanaisit Zera Pishtan Oishum Shemin V'Kayotze Behem Amayim. We encountered this halacha already before, I think in Shin Lamed Hey. Hanaisit Zera Pishtan Oishum Shemin V'Kayotze Behem Amayim. If somebody puts flax seeds or sesame seeds into water, Chayev Mishum Lush, just by putting this stuff into the water, even though you don't mix it, even though you don't do anything to combine it, just by putting these ingredients into water to soak, you are chayiv because of lush. Why? Because it is the nature of flax seeds and sesame seeds that they exude when they're soaking in water. They exude some sort of a fat. The word that the Mefarshim use is ririn, which would be like a mucousy substance, but they exude some kind of an oil or a fat, which automatically makes them combine into a belila ava, into a thick mixture. So you don't need to do anything in order to combine it. Just by putting them in water, they will automatically combine and form a thick mixture. So that would be an isser of lush.
Is it just water, or could it be other types of water?
I do not know the answer to that.
Let's say you have a fruit soup and you want to throw some nuts in there.
So for this is not nuts. This is specifically flax and sesame seeds. So you want to know, could you throw sesame seeds into any old liquid?
Or people have yogurt.
Right.
Seeds in. I don't know. I see it.
My hunch is that it's just water, but I would have to check on that. Sif Yud Gimel. This is a very interesting, very short, very complex sif. And we can judge that by the amount of biur halacha that there is. Sif Yud Gimel. Ein shavrim hacheres. You're not allowed to break earthenware. Ve'ein kairin hanyar. And you're not allowed to rip paper. Mimnei shehu kimisakin kli. Because doing so is tikkun moneh. By breaking earthenware and by ripping paper, you are fashioning a keli, and it's an isser of tikkun moneh. Now, can you get more vague than this? So, the truth is that this, it would seem, and the biur halacha is going to say so, that this seems to flow from a Mishnah in Masechtas Beah on Lamed Beis Amud Beis. The Mishnah in Beah says that you're not allowed to break a shard of cheres. In order to use it, you have salted fish, right? So let's say you have some herring, and you want to grill it, you want to roast it. So it seems that the nature of these salted fishes are that they very easily burn over an open fire when you put them on a grill. So you need to put something intervening between the fish and the fire. And you don't have a grill pan. So you have a nice piece of cheres over here. You break off a piece of cheres, and now you're going to use that shard of earthenware to put on the grill under your fish. So by breaking this piece of earthenware, what you're actually doing is you're fashioning a keli. You're making a keli that you need. And therefore that is tikkun moneh. What does that have to do with paper? So the Mishnah Beah also says that they would take paper, they would soak paper in water so that it should not burn easily. And again, when they talk about paper, you know, their paper, our paper, not the same. So their paper probably was a little bit more durable. It was, I don't know whether it was made out of cloths or grasses or whatever it was. Had a higher moisture content, I'm sure, than our paper does. So they would take paper, they would soak it, and again, they would use it to put on the grill. So again, you're fashioning a keli. So says the Mishnah Berurah in Eis Katan Mem, Ein shayvrin hacheres, you're not allowed to break the cheres, kidei lahaniach aleihem. The purpose of this is that you want to create something that you could put something on top of. Now, from the fact that the Mishnah Berurah doesn't mention anything about fire or anything else, my assumption is that this would be the same thing. Somebody is out in the park and he wants to eat and he forgot the plates. And now you need something, you're on the filthy picnic table and you need to eat off something. So you rip a piece of paper and you put it down on the picnic table so you have something to put your food down on. So you made a plate. You made a coaster, or you made a plate. So that's the Isser, says the Mishnah Berurah, that the Mechaber is referring to over here. Now, there's right away, there's a kasha that everybody is bothered with. And that is, you're telling me that you're over because of tikkun moneh. How about korea? You ripped something. So what happened to the Isser of korea? And like we're going to see in Sif Yodalid, you'll tell me, well, korea, you'll say, well, it's makalkal. All you did was ruin something. You ripped something. It's makalkal. Oh, but this is not just makalkal. While it's not korea almanas litfor, it's not ripping in order to sew, right? But it is korea for a tikkun. It's a korea for a constructive purpose. And we're going to see in Sif Yodalid that you don't need korea almanas litfor. You only need korea for a tikkun. So this is korea for a tikkun. So why isn't it korea? Now, the Mishnah Berurah is going to ask this question in Ois Cotton Mem Aleph, but the problem is that the Mishnah Berurah is not going to answer the question. The Mishnah Berurah is going to ask the question, and he's going to tell you, Ayin Bir Halacha. So let's take a look at the Bir Halacha on Kuf Tzadik Aleph Amud Beis. The Bir Halacha, Dibur HaMaschel, Ein Shavrin. We're going to do pieces of this Bir Halacha. Bir Halacha says as follows, Sif Zev HaSamach Loi. This Sif of Shulchan Aruch and the next one, Miloshan HaRambam. They're taken almost directly from the words of the Rambam. Udavarav B'Sif Zeh, and the words of the Mechaber and of the Rambam in this Sif Yud Gimel that we just said. Hu Noiveya, it flows Mimash Amar Bebeya Daf Lamed Beis Amud Beis, from the Mishnah in Beya. Hatam Damashvile Moneh, that the reason for this Isser is because you're forming a keli. Now, Frek the Chavetz Chaim. From what we're going to see in the forthcoming Sif Cotton of the Mechaber, the Korea al-Manas l'sakein chayiv mishum Korea, that whenever you tear something in order for a tikkun, no matter what kind of tikkun it is, even if it's a tikkun not of the thing itself, but it's a tikkun of some other kind, you're always chayiv for Korea. Amai loy noimar bazeh mishum Korea. So why isn't the Isser over here of the Isser of Korea? Furthermore, the Meloshan Rambam, Perek Chav Gimel, this Rambam, where the words of the Mechaber come from, Mashma Shu Midrabanan. It seems very clear for the Rambam that this Isser that he's referring to of Tikkun Moneh is a Derabanan Dika Tikkun Moneh. It's not a Deraisa Dika Tikkun Moneh. So this is only an Isser Derabanan. Because the Rambam lumps this Isser together with other Isurim that are clearly only also with the Rabbanon. So we see from the Rambam that we're dealing with an Isser Rabbanon. And if the Isser over here is Korea Amanas L'Sakein, Isser Daraisa. So why are you telling me the Rabbanon? It's an Isser Daraisa. Be'emes, the Chavetz Chaim says, Be'emes, Kvar Hiksha Zeh B'Prima Gadim. The Prima Gadim already asked this kasha, V'nishar B'Kushya, and the Prima Gadim does not find a satisfactory answer. Now, in the next several lines of the Bir Halacha here, the Bir Halacha is going to put forth one possible answer, which he says there are those that want to put forth the notion that you could only be over Korea on something which was made out of smaller elements. For instance, a bolt of cloth. You look at a bolt of cloth, wow, beautiful bolt of cloth. It's actually made out of individual threads, right? It's woven threads. So there are those that want to suggest that Korea, you can only be over on something that was made out of smaller components. And over here, where we're talking about cheres, and where we're talking about their paper was not made out of smaller components. It's like a hide. A hide is not made out of smaller components. It's guf echad. It's one piece. But the Chavetz Chaim says that notion has already been disproved, so he doesn't like this answer. So now if we skip 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 5 lines, the last word on the line in the Bir Halacha says, Velulei de mistafina. If not that I was fearful, which is the Chavetz Chaim's humble way of saying, if not that I'm fearful to put forth my own answer to this question where others greater than me and before me have not said this answer, this is the answer that I would say. Hava amina davar chadash bazeh. I would say a chiddush to answer this question, and I would say Deloi shayich shem korea almanas l'sakein. We cannot call something korea almanas l'sakein, tearing for a constructive purpose. Ki im kishekorea ezer davar be'emtza. Only when we rip something in the middle, v'hu tzarich l'tikun shneihem, and it is necessary for the tikkun of the fabric on both sides of the tear. And we'll see what this means right now. Uke'ein shahaya b'mishkan. This is the form that korea almanas l'sakein took when it was done in the Mishkan. What did they do in the Mishkan? She'ariah shenafa badarna. If theoretically it would happen, it's brought down that it never happened, but theoretically, if one of the Uriyas HaMishkan, if one of the tapestries that covered the Mishkan would have gotten a hole because it was eaten out by a moth or by a worm, what would they do? Kairin ba, what they would do is they would tear the fabric clear across the entire Uriah from end to end. The Taifrinaisa, they would take it in a half an inch, right, or whatever the size of the hole is, and they would re-stitch it. Now, the reason they had to do it that way is because what else are you going to do? If you're just going to repair the place where the hole is, it's going to form a patch. We don't want a patch. We're not going to have a patched Uriah.
Why do we have to say that he tore the whole thing all along?
Because that's the only way to make it smooth. That's what the Gemara says in Shabbos. That's what the Gemara says in Shabbos. The Gemara says in Shabbos that we do is, it's two ways of looking at it.
Through the hole. You just got to go through the hole. You just clear the hole.
No, then what are you going to do? You have here. You have a hole. You have a hole here.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
You go from this side. You go to the hole.
From which side? From this side, go to the hole. From this side, go to the hole. Now what?
Just pass the hole, and that's it. And now sew it.
Now sew it. So now over here is not going to be even to here. Over here you took it in 1/8 of an inch. Over here you did not. So it's not going to be even. So the only way to make it even was to cut it clean across. There are others that say that what they did was they actually cut it at the top of the hole and cut it at the bottom of the hole, removed a piece, and then restitched it, which I don't see why you would have to do that really. But in any case, the point over here is that the tikkun was a tikkun of the whole fabric. You made a tear in the middle of the fabric, almanas litfar, almanas l'sakein, the entire fabric. You're fixing this whole bolt of cloth. Okay, so the tikkun was on the whole cloth. Similarly, another case in Masechta Shabbos, if you had another piece of fabric where it wasn't stitched evenly, so there's like a bubble in the middle. Again, in order to make it even, you have to cut the whole cloth. Now skip like 3 lines. Masha ein kain, says the Chavetz Chaim. Kishekorea eze davar min habeged min hatzad. Let's say you have a pair of pants that's too long. So now you're going to rip off 2 inches off the bottom, right? So you're doing it l'sakein. You're being misakin the pants. But how about that piece that you ripped off? Are you being misakin that? You're not being misakin that. You're chucking that in the garbage. So now suddenly you're korea almanas l'sakein. It's true that you were korea almanas l'sakein the pants, but you weren't korea almanas l'sakein the entire piece of cloth that you started with. There's a piece of the cloth that you're throwing out. So says the Chavetz Chaim, Masha'enke kishekorea is a davar me'abeged min hatzad. The kavanah l'sakein b'zeh habeged shahaya orech ha'mekulkel b'svasai. If your kavanah is to fix up something that was too long, or where the end was damaged, v'hakaticha hanikras, and the piece that you're ripping off, lo yisukun b'zeh klal, you're not fixing that at all. Lo yishayich b'zeh shem korea almanas l'sakein. You cannot call that korea almanas l'sakein, kiyim shem acher. That has a different name. Dahainu misakin moneh. That's called tikkun moneh. Sho misakin b'zeh sabeged. Over here, you cut off the bottom of the pants. Tikkun moneh. You fix the pants. But you're not going to call it korea almanas l'sakein because you didn't fix the fabric. The fabric you threw out a piece. You skip the brackets over here. And now, what decides if this tikkun moneh is going to be a daraisa or a darabanan? V'tali adavar ba'tikkun. Now it depends on the tikkun that you're making. Im hu tikkun gamur If it's a really chashav tikkun, chayiv mishum makeh b'patish, then there's an issa daraisa of makeh b'patish, the goymer hakeli oy habeged, because you completed this keli or this garment. V'hem einay tikkun gomer, if it's not such a chashav tikkun, so then hu midrabanan, then it's an issa darabanan. Ulekach, therefore, b'inyoneinu, in our halacha here in Sif Yud Gimel, shehu korea ezek atichas niyar midav sholem kedei lihistamish by eze davar ma, where you tore off a piece of paper off a larger sheet because you needed it to put a fish on, right? So over there, b'dav shenikre mimenu aniyar and hazeh eina mesakna klal. You didn't fix the piece of paper that you tore this paper off of, so you can't call it korea amenas l'sakein because the other piece you didn't fix. And indeed, you might have ruined the larger piece of paper. Like this, you had a good 8.5 by 11 sheet of letter-sized paper. Now you ripped off a piece to put down on the picnic table. Now you've got a ruined sheet of paper. So it's adirab, it's makalkal. So ain't zebeklal karei amanas l'sakein. That's not karei amanas l'sakein. V'tali adover rak lefi atikun shenasa v'chatikas aniyar shechatchai. So it only depends on the cheshivas of the tikkun that you made. And the Rambam, he completes over here in the next few lines. The Rambam says that this tikkun that you made over here, to have a piece of paper to put a fish on, or to have a piece of cheres to use as a coaster or as a plate, that's a shvacha tikkun. You didn't make a real plate, right? You made something that's usable, but it's a shvacha tikkun moneh. So it's an issa d'Rabbanan. That's why he puts it with the d'Rabbanans, and that's why the Chavetz Chaim says we're not dealing over here with an issa of korea. And we'll continue this tomorrow. We'll see that this svara of the Chavetz Chaim is going to come into play with a psak that he makes on tomorrow's Mishnah Berurah.